Welcome to RP Revenge.
The sound of cardboard scraping against the tile floor stopped me cold. It was 2:17 a.m. First I thought it was the cat. But when I crept out of bed, heart hammering, I saw the sliver of light seeping under the guest room door. The room that had always been mine to decorate, my quiet sanctuary after long workdays. I pushed the door open a few inches. There was Daniel, my husband of 7 years, dragging boxes labeled Mom's winter clothes across the floor. His phone was on speaker. "Yeah, Mom, the movers can bring the rest next week. She won't know until it's done. Trust me." The breath hitched in my throat so hard it hurt. She won't know until it's done. He was talking about me. For a moment I just stood there, frozen, barefoot on the cold tile, the shadows stretching long across the floor. I couldn't decide what to feel first: confusion, betrayal, or disbelief. My husband, the man who once swore he wanted a private life for just us, was planning to move his mother into my house behind my back. When he hung up, I quietly retreated to the hallway before he noticed me. I went back to bed, staring at the ceiling as the truth sank in like ice water. Something had been wrong for weeks, small things. The strange phone calls he took in the garage. The way he changed the subject whenever I asked about his mother's new living arrangement. The growing distance in his eyes. Now it all made sense. But what didn't make sense was why. The next morning, Daniel greeted me like nothing had happened. He poured coffee, kissed my forehead, and smiled the same practiced smile he used on his clients. "Did you sleep okay?" he asked. I wanted to say no. "I lay awake listening to your lies echo through the house." Instead I smiled tightly. "Yeah, fine." He talked about his day. Meetings, errands, his mother's health. I listened in silence, memorizing every casual lie. When he left for work, I opened the guest room door again. The boxes were still there. Inside them, old blankets, worn dresses, a framed wedding photo of his parents, and, most chilling, a bottle of medication labeled Margaret Lewis. She was already moving in. By noon my head was spinning. I sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through my phone, trying to piece together the timeline. Daniel's mother had sold her condo 3 weeks ago. He'd told me she was downsizing to a retirement community. But that was a lie. She wasn't moving out, she was moving in. And not just anywhere. Into the one place I'd built from scratch. Every paint color, every photo, every corner chosen with care. My home felt sick. This wasn't just about space, it was about control. Daniel's mother had never liked me. From the day we met, she'd called me that career woman with no maternal instincts. She once told me straight-faced that she hoped Daniel would marry someone more traditional someday if I didn't settle down. And now, she was going to live under my roof. But what haunted me most wasn't her. It was him. Because Daniel wasn't just doing this for her. He was doing it to me. He knew what it meant, what boundaries it crossed, what trust it shattered. And he didn't care. That night I tested him. When he came home, I was waiting by the counter with 2 glasses of wine. "So," I said casually, "how's your mom? Has she found a new place yet?" He hesitated, barely noticeable, but I caught it. Then he smiled. "Not yet. She's looking around." "Why?" I took a slow sip of wine. "Just wondering. You've been talking to her a lot lately." He shrugged. "You know how she is, lonely, nervous. I'm just helping her figure things out." A lie wrapped in tenderness. He'd always been good at that. But I didn't push. Not yet. Instead, I watched him move around the kitchen, noticing the things I'd ignored before. How he never left his phone unattended anymore. How he locked the guest room door before bed. How he smiled at me without really seeing me. I realized then that this wasn't sudden. Had been planned. The next few days blurred into quiet surveillance. I tracked his calls. I checked his emails, something I'd never done before. What I found gutted me. There were messages to a moving company. "Deliver on the 12th. She'll be at work all day." An email thread between Daniel and his mother. Her. Are you sure she won't mind? Him. She doesn't need to know until she sees the furniture. And then, the one that broke me. Daniel. It's still my house too. She'll get over it once Mom's settled. I reread that line 100 times. She'll get over it. He'd reduced my voice, my life, to a minor inconvenience. That night, I stood outside the guest room, listening to the hum of silence behind the locked door. My hands trembled, not with fear but with rage. He thought he could bulldoze me. He thought I'd bite my tongue, smile for the family photos, and quietly give up the life I'd built. He didn't know me at all. If Daniel wanted a secret move-in, I'd give him a secret move-out. The next morning while he was at work, I started my plan. I called my lawyer friend Mia. Hypothetically, I said, trying to keep my voice even. If your spouse added someone to the property deed without your knowledge, would that be illegal? Pause. Depends on how it's filed. Why? I exhaled slowly. No reason. Just curious. That was my first step, finding out what was mine on paper. Then I called a locksmith. Told him I wanted the locks changed for security reasons. By the end of the day, I had a new set of keys. But I wasn't done. I went into the guest room, opened the boxes, and replaced every one of Margaret's personal items with identical empty ones, stuffed with old newspapers. I even resealed the tape perfectly. If Daniel wanted a secret surprise, he'd get one. That evening he came home humming. He kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. How was your day? He asked. Productive, I said, smiling sweetly. Later, while he showered, I slipped into his office and found the moving company receipt on his desk. Delivery date: Friday, 10 a.m. Perfect. Because Friday I'd be long gone. That night, lying next to him, I stared at the ceiling, listening to his steady breathing. I thought about the woman I used to be. The one who apologized too quickly, who second-guessed her instincts, who mistook manipulation for love. Not anymore. When he turned over in his sleep, murmuring softly, I whispered to the darkness, "You're not the only one who can keep secrets." And for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Friday morning came with the kind of deceptive calm that makes your skin prickle. Sunlight poured through the curtains like liquid gold, but my stomach twisted as if a storm were brewing beneath my ribs. By 8:30 a.m., the house was spotless, eerily spotless. The guest room door was unlocked now, boxes neatly stacked, everything looking deceptively ready. Daniel had kissed me goodbye hours earlier, saying he had a late client meeting. But I knew the truth. He'd gone to meet the movers. I watched from the window as his car disappeared down the street, his taillights shrinking into the distance. That was my cue. I moved quickly. From the safe, I retrieved the deed papers I'd quietly requested copies of 2 days earlier. The house was still in my name. Daniel's name wasn't on it. He'd never contributed to the down payment, though he liked to pretend otherwise. Then I opened my laptop and sent a carefully written email to both him and his mother. Subject: Before you arrive. Daniel, I know about your plan. About the movers, the boxes, the conversations you thought I couldn't hear. You said I'd get over it. You were wrong. By the time you read this, the locks will be changed, the alarm code reset, and your access revoked. This home is mine. You can explain to your mother why she'll need to find another place to live, preferably one that still has your name on the lease. Best of luck. Claire. Clicked send. Then I poured myself a coffee and waited. At 9:58 a.m. I heard the truck outside. 2 men hopped out, stretching, clipboard in hand. Behind them, a smaller car pulled up, Margaret's. She stepped out in a pastel suit, clutching her purse like a victory flag. And then Daniel emerged from the passenger seat, trying to hide his smirk. I watched through the curtain as they approached the door. He inserted his old key. It didn't turn. He frowned, tried again. The lock stayed firm. Then came the knocking. Claire. His voice was muffled but urgent. Honey, can you open up? The movers are here. I stayed silent, sipping my coffee, pulse steady. He knocked again, harder this time. Claire. Finally, I opened the window just enough for my voice to carry. "Good morning, Daniel." He turned startled. "What's going on?" "The key." "Oh, that," I said lightly. "I had the locks changed. For security reasons." Margaret's expression soured instantly. "Is this some kind of joke?" I met her glare evenly. "No joke. You won't be moving in here." Daniel's face turned pale. "Claire, we talked about this." "No," I cut in sharply. "You talk. Behind my back. To moving companies, to your mother, to everyone but me." He stepped closer to the window. "Look, I was going to tell you. She needed somewhere to stay. Her condo's gone." "Exactly," I said quietly. "You sold her condo before asking me. You planned to move her in without my consent. And you lied about it." He blinked, realizing the depth of it. "I didn't lie. I just didn't want to fight." "Then you shouldn't have married me if you wanted obedience instead of partnership." For the first time, he didn't have an answer. Margaret crossed her arms. "I can't believe you'd treat family like this." "He's your husband." I smiled faintly. "And this is my home. You'll both have to find another arrangement." Then I pointed toward the boxes in the moving truck. "By the way, those are empty. Thought you should know." The movers looked at each other, confused. Daniel's jaw clenched. "You went through them." "Oh, I did more than that," I said softly. "I replaced everything you thought you'd sneak in with newspaper. You wanted a clean move-in. I gave you a clean slate." He stepped forward, anger rising. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" I snapped, voice shaking with fury. "You plan to erase my boundaries, my trust, my life. One box at a time. You wanted to build your mother's comfort on the ruins of my peace." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut through bone. Margaret scoffed. "You'll regret this." I tilted my head. "Maybe. But not as much as you'll regret underestimating me." Then I turned, walked to the door, and opened it just enough to slide out an envelope. "Here," I said, placing it on the step. "Inside are your bank transfer receipts. Every cent you took from our joint account to fund this little operation. I've frozen the account. You can take what's yours and leave the rest." Daniel's eyes widened. "You went through my finances." I smiled coldly. "No, Daniel. I went through ours. There's a difference." He stood there, jaw working, searching for the right words. "Claire, please," he finally said, voice softening. "Let's talk about this. We can fix it." For a moment, a small part of me wanted to believe him. The part that still remembered our first date, the way he used to look at me like I was the only person in the room. But that woman, the one who believed in compromise at any cost, was gone. "You already fixed it," I said. "You just fixed it wrong." Then I shut the window. They lingered outside for a few more minutes, arguing quietly. Eventually, Margaret got back in her car, slamming the door so hard the mirror shook. The moving truck rolled away. Daniel stood on the curb for a long time, staring at the locked door that used to open for him. When he finally left, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The house felt quiet, eerily so. But it wasn't the suffocating kind of silence anymore. It was peaceful. That evening, Mia came over with a bottle of wine. "So," she said, settling onto the couch, "how's freedom feel?" I laughed softly. Like a breath I'd been holding for years. She grinned. "You sure you don't want to file for divorce yet?" "Oh, I do," I said, swirling the wine. "But I want him to sit in that apartment he's renting for her and realize what he lost before I sign anything. Let him live with his choices." Mia raised a brow. "Savage." I smiled faintly. "No. Just done." Over the next few weeks I began to rebuild. Not just my home but myself. I replaced the guest room boxes with art supplies, turned it into a studio. I started painting again. I opened the curtains every morning, letting the light flood the spaces that used to feel heavy with secrets. And slowly I began to forgive myself, not for trusting him, but for silencing my instincts for so long. One evening as I painted, an email notification appeared. It was from Daniel. Claire, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Mom's been miserable since that day. She says you humiliated us. But she doesn't know the half of it. Miss you. Messed up. I understand if you can't forgive me, but I needed you to know. I never meant to hurt you like that. I stared at the words for a long time. And then I replied, Daniel, you didn't just hurt me. You taught me something. That peace is louder than apology. I don't need you to understand me anymore. I need you to remember me. Then I hit send, closed my laptop and stepped outside. The air was crisp, the kind that hinted at change. For the first time in months, I didn't feel betrayed. Felt free.